Well, hello and welcome to the Mighty Oaks Show. My name is Jeremy Stalnecker. I'm the Executive Director of the Mighty Oaks Foundation, here with Branden Kunath, the National Programs Director of the Mighty Oaks Foundation.
Thanks.
And this is our first episode of the new year.
The new year.
First episode of the new decade.
Yes, 2020.
2020.
Supposed to be in Jetson cars right now.
Jetson.
Supposedly.
There are some people that are doing weird stuff. That hoverboard thing.
Which we have one in the house now.
Yeah.
Which
people running over each other and.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will not get on it.
I tried to get on one. My nieces have one, and I about killed myself getting on it.
After watching my wife on it, there's no way I'm getting on that thing. 220 pounds hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Not going to feel
Yeah, it's
good.
not made for that.
No.
But it is a new decade, and we'll see what new innovations come in the next 10 years. One thing that won't change probably, though, is people's need for help and direction. And thankfully, we have the opportunity to continue into the new decade doing what we've been doing for the last many years.
Yeah.
And thankful for the opportunity to do that. And we have a full slate of programs starting this next week.
Monday.
Yeah, starting Monday throughout the year. So looking forward to that, and a lot of good things coming up, and we'll talk about that as we go through, of course, over the next several months. But today I wanted to talk about getting help. And that seems like maybe a strange place to start for some, but for others it's not. And for those of you that watch our show regularly, we cover a lot of different topics and a lot of different things that may apply to you directly or to someone that you know, someone that you love, someone that you care about. And I think, as many of the contacts that we get are from people that care about people who are hurting.
Absolutely.
And one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, when do I need to reach out for help? How do I reach out for help? Where do I go for help? And we've had the opportunity to work with folks who are kind of on the front end of dealing with trauma, all the way to the other end of dealing with trauma and trying to pick up the pieces of a broken life. As we've dealt with people and worked with people and talked to people, when does someone need to say, enough is enough? I need to get outside of myself or outside of my sphere, outside of my my world, whatever that is, and reach out for help. And that's a hard line to know when you've come to that line, and we all want to deal with it internally. But how do you know when it's time to ask for help?
Yeah. Obviously the easiest answer is as soon as possible, but what does that mean, right? What's the context behind that? And as you said before, I would say the majority of all of the people that reach out to us or recommend somebody to us is a spouse, family member, a friend of. So there's something missing within there. Even my own journey, like it took a lot before I got to the point where I was like, okay, something's not right. And even then, I couldn't even realize, okay, I needed to get help. My mind was, okay, something's not right. And that's what it was, and then it just so happened.
It's not that I need help, it's just I've identified there's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's the difficult part, is to understand when enough's enough and you can't take any more. I tried to explain to guys as best as possible, like, you don't wait till your weapon breaks to do preventive maintenance on it. Right. So with guys and gals that come to the program or are interested in the program, they come from all different walks of life and backgrounds, you name it, MOSs, years of service and all that, and you don't have to reach a culminating point to be eligible to come, but it seems like that's the feeling behind it, is like, I haven't hit my rock bottom yet, my breaking point yet. So how do you dial back to, okay, now I can check the box, now I need to go and figure that out. And trying to get anyone, especially in the military, first responder realm, to admit that there's something not right, it's almost impossible. Because we internalize and we go and stuff everything down. And I know for me personally, I spent many years, just packing the rucksack, and the mission came first. Everything else was just kind of as it needed to fill or take place. Then I dealt with it then, but whatever was in front of me was at that time. So I never looked at all those things that were either building up or culminating or all that stuff. And that's the big thing that I think guys and gals need to look at is, okay, is there something off? What can I do about it? And is it that serious enough? The seriousness, is it serious to the point where I need to address it?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to walk through that whole eligibility piece and all. I know when I was assigned to Wounded War Battalion West at Camp Pendleton here, I really felt like I was inadequate to be there. Like I had all my limbs and all that.
You weren't bad enough to be there.
Exactly. Right. And I still felt like I should be in the fight. I still had a platoon of guys that I needed to be there for, and I didn't feel like I should have been there, even though, you know, later on I was like, okay, there's
this is the right place for me.
There's some things I need to deal with, but we tend to wait till after the boom, and you know, unfortunately, military culture all across the board, we're way too good at being reactive, and proactive is the key piece. You know, much of our tactics and techniques and procedures that we've developed over the years has been because of reaction. You know, our patrolling tactics, ambush tactics, you know, to IED threats and all that stuff have always been because something bad has happened. It started occurring more and more and more. Then people started looking at it and say, okay, well, we got to start defending against this. So how do you defend against your mental health and your mental well-being and just overall health? You know, if you're having chronic migraines, you know, or things are starting to get to the point where you're having trouble remembering, or like me, when I was a ops chief and I had Post-it notes everywhere. You know, I just thought that I couldn't remember things. You know, I was terrible at it, or it is what it is. Those are those signs that that people need to recognize. Is like it's not always just because, or it is what it is.
Yeah. So it's recognizing that there is some kind of a problem, and then being proactive enough to take action before the problem becomes maybe untenable. And for a lot of people, they wait until it's so bad they have to do something, when it's so much better to deal with the problem when it's small. And you know, whatever that is, a physical problem, emotional or mental problem, a spiritual problem, it's dealing with those things early on. And I think understanding as well that getting help doesn't necessarily mean going to a program like Mighty Oaks, right? It can mean a lot of different things.
I mean, getting around other like-minded people to share and you know, go through some of those bonding friendships, or seeking out, you know, the chaplain or a mentor, or you know, person in your church if you attend a church, or you know, but sharing and unburdening some of that, those things, or finding you know, we teach about a replacement conditioning in the program, finding something constructive to replace maybe a habit or an activity that you're doing that you know is not doing anything positive for you, and taking that, you know, Chad speaks about how jiu-jitsu was that implemental thing. Other people like running and swimming, or woodworking. I've quite a few friends that are into carpentry and all that stuff. But being able to take your mind off of that, and that's the big thing. But going back to the big issue, and I really think is where it comes from, is the military culture of like, don't give up and push, you know, and
just ignore the problem, ignore the pain.
The old adage, you know, you got a broken ankle, well, you know, here's some Motrin, change your socks, right?
Drink some water.
And you know, nobody wants to quit, be called a quitter, be looked as weak, and you know, I think the military culture has done a better job at kind of lessening the stigma of asking for help and realizing, okay, I might have some post-traumatic stress, or there's a reason why I've had these anxiety symptoms, or all that stuff. But it's not enough, because we're still getting all these guys that come to their breaking point, where I don't know how many applications I've seen today where it was, I just can't do this anymore, or I'm at my rope's end.
Yep.
I had a recent Marine that reached out to me, and he was his answer to me of why he wanted to go was, I'm just tired. I'm tired.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like, guys will push themselves to exhaustion.
Yeah.
And then, they wonder why bad decisions and all those other things follow immediately.
Well, everything's a trade-off too, right? And I think part of getting help is acknowledging that I'm always trading one thing for another thing. The decision to not get help, to not deal with these issues, to not face the things that I'm dealing with, is a decision to do damage to my relationships, do damage to my family, to potentially lose them. And I have to take responsibility, at least to the point that I understand I'm making a decision. This isn't happening to me. I'm making a decision to trade, where I am and not getting help for my family or whatever, it is that I'm damaging.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, they damage family, they damage relationships, they damage jobs and futures and, all those things because they're unwilling to get help.
Yeah.
And they don't see it that clearly, I don't think, that it's a trade-off. It's one or the other. And you have to decide what's more important.
Yeah, and with that, it goes back to, it's just because of that, it comes with it, you know. It's a part of the job, or I don't know how many times I've said it or heard it, where an argument occurred, and it was like, well, you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
You know how many times I was going to deploy, and I talked and all that stuff, and it was almost a way to justify the turmoil and the issues that were going in, so you didn't have to deal with them.
Right.
And it's tough to try to get away from that mindset and think, we get it all the time, where guys will be like, well, I don't want to take another guy's spot, and in reality, I understand that. I know exactly where they're coming from, but also with that, I also see between the lines that it's a excuse for guys to not attend, and I say it time and time again, and I'll say it this time. What's the harm? What's the worst thing that can happen if you reach out to better yourself? Because that's what help is, right? And I've said it at sessions, and we've talked about it many times. But on the battlefield, you're out there as a squad, platoon, whatever it is. You're moving to an objective, patrolling, whatever it is. You take contact, and the contact's way too heavy, and you get overwhelmed and you get pinned down. Well, what do? You figure out a plan during that time. And it's funny that you reach out for help. You call for support during that time. Right? And you either get artillery, you get QRF to run in, or you get the A-10 to come in and do its glorious things. But you ask for help. We church it up and say support.
But it's asking for help.
But it's asking for help. And the crazy thing on the other side of that is, most of the time when that happens, people receive valorous awards for that.
Because they knew how to reach out for help.
They went through the process. They called in whatever 9-10 line, whatever they had to do, called back to the COC, and they asked for help because they were in a position. And with that, most of the guys would say, I didn't do it for me, I did it for my guys around me. And even with that, if you're not going to do it for yourself,
do it for those around you.
Do it for those around you, whether it's your wife, your kids. Unfortunately, I don't know how many times we've seen it where the family members have received most of the issues that have came home from whatever issue, and
we feel like we're on an island, but we're damaging a lot of people around us.
And it's a domino effect. It's where now you thought it was just you, and you use the you don't understand, or you weren't there and everything, but we don't realize that our actions and behaviors are still our own actions and behaviors regardless. And now we're destroying relationships and family members, which it's this domino effect. Now this person has their own things that they've got to sort through, which is essentially why the Women's Legacy Program was started.
That's right.
And not to say that it wasn't also because of the women service members, because they were a big part of it as well. But we started
it's a holistic approach. It's understanding everyone deals with it.
We started seeing a lot of like, okay, there's, even in our own mind, there's more to this than why we had to get to the point where first responders, we had to open the door to those guys, and resiliency. Chad does all the resiliency talks, or I don't say all, but pretty much close to all of them. To try to get in front of the boom, as we would say.
That's right. One of the best things you can do to get help is to prevent the need for help.
Exactly.
And there are some things that we talk about even in our program. When someone leaves our program, we say, look, if you want to keep moving forward, there are 4 things you have to do. We talk about the 4 B's. We're real simple around here, the 4 B's. And this is kind of a preventative maintenance type of thing that can get you the help you need on an ongoing basis. This is like eating right instead of getting to your 80th birthday and wondering why you're not doing well. It's exercising, it's taking care of yourself, but in a spiritual sense or an emotional sense or relationship sense, what are the 4 things that we would encourage someone to do, before the crisis or once the crisis has been averted?
So I mean, like you said, we try to keep things simple.
We're not smart people here.
No, so some of us are. There's some guys that have plenty of degrees and letters after their name, but for our position of what we would consider somebody to be successful after leaving the program, or even if they got this idea before, is like you said, the 4 B's. Be in the Word, and that's being in Scripture, reading it, and meditating on it, not the kumbaya kind of aspect, but really looking into the interpretation into it.
It's the source of truth, and it serves as a light on our lives. It shows us what truth we should be saying.
It is what the foundation should be set upon, and so be in the Word's number 1. Be in prayer, and that comes from the Word, that doesn't mean in the morning and at night, or like specific ones. That's on you. I know people that pray all day long, and some people that just like to do it in the morning. But have a conversation.
Communicating with God.
It's your time to speak to God, to let those things off. If that's the best opportunity that I personally can go to God and get those things off of my chest, where I may feel like I don't want to come and talk to you or burden you or anything like that. I know his where he's at, and my burdens are light to him.
And I think it helps to also, when we go to God, it kind of, we're always the center of our own story, and so we think we're the most important thing happening. When we go to God with our problems, we're acknowledging that He's bigger than us. He's bigger than our situation, and maybe His plan is even bigger than what we can see.
Exactly. Like it's simple as that. And it's interesting. My kids are sometimes kind of intimidated to pray because they don't want to mess it up. And I have to remind them it's you conversating with the Creator, and have a conversation with Him. He knows what's going to be in your heart, and He knows what you need to say. He wants to hear it from you, and so have that conversation with Him. Use God's Word to help build your spiritual maturity on prayer. And then the next thing is be in fellowship, like what we were talking about earlier. Put those like-minded, positive people around you, to be in fellowship, to go to church. Seek out a good church that you can connect with and be comfortable to go with. I not in a bragging point, but I use it as a point of why it's important to have a church. Is we drive over about an hour. Same for you guys. You guys definitely make more trips than we do, but we drive an hour to our church. And there's plenty of churches around where we live at that are great, but that's the importance of why we love our church and why we still go there, and the connections that we have, and how it helps us out personally, across our family, but being able to connect and learn and stay in that.
With like-minded, positive people. So a lot of people, particularly in our world, fellowship, but they fellowship with the wrong people.
I'm not
fellowship with feeling they're a weight dragging them down.
Nobody. The misery loves company aspect. There's a time and place to go hang out with the guys and gals and do all that stuff. But you have to ask yourself, is it wise in light of? If my marriage is in shambles or going to that point, Should I really be going out partying, going out drinking, if my finances and relationship, my wife, kids is off the rails? That seems like a simple answer, but it's really not. So be in fellowship. And then the last one is be in contact with what we call our cornermen. And that stems from those positive people that you put in your life that are going to speak truth to you, that they're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. They're the ones, they may not be your best friend or your buddy, but a mentor or somebody that you look at that says, when things are going off the rails, they're going to have no problem saying, hey, look, man, you're screwing up and you need to, the ones that would pull you back in and say, no, you're not going to go out and party. You need to stay home and be there and work this stuff out. Those are the people that you should be in. So again, be in the Word, be in prayer, be in fellowship, and be in contact with your cornermen. And
that's the proactive steps. So there's the, when do I need help? Well, recognize there's a problem, and then as soon as possible, start getting help. Help can be a program like Mighty Oaks, or maybe if it's drugs or alcohol or other things. It can be different programs, but it could just be the right people reaching out. Keying the handset and asking for help. We need some support down here. But then there's the proactive part, which is taking those proactive steps on an ongoing basis to have the right people around you and to maintain your relationship with the Lord. I think the other side of this is, and this is a question that's often asked, is how do I get help for someone in my life that doesn't necessarily want help? It could be a spouse. I have no idea how many applications we've had filled out by husbands or wives that just want the best for their spouse, right? It could be a child. It could be a parent. I don't know, but all that's well and good. But how do I get help for someone that doesn't necessarily need help?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
That's a $1 million question. Yeah,
that's a bigger mystery than the previous one, right? And like you said, majority of our info requests are, I have you fill in the blank, that could really use your program, or how do I get them? And the first thing I have to go back and thank them for being willing to reach out on their behalf, whether they knew it or not, but letting them know, okay, you did the right thing. Let's walk through that. And first off, setting this tone to them is like, nothing's going to happen unless they want it to happen. Yep, that's right. We try not to have guys get forced or anybody get forced to go to the program. It happens. People get tricked and all that stuff.
They just show up.
Or they just show up. And it is what it is. We'll take anybody, no problem. But you have to make sure that person fully understands, that they're taking the step. Yeah. Somebody helped, encouraged them, nudged them, but that person needs to be willing to get help. Otherwise, it's, I don't want to say it's all for nothing, but it's pretty close to it, because you have to try to prepare somebody to have an open mind and be somewhat optimistic, or, so many times where I don't know why I'm here, I'm just here, and hopefully I can get something out of it. That's a start. Yeah. The hardest part for many guys is to get to the program, to show up.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to be willing. I think one of the mistakes families make sometimes is just nagging somebody into, constantly bringing it up. And there's a difference between nagging and letting them know that there's a program available. Yeah. And I think that's something that can be really helpful, is letting the person that needs help to know there are programs available. One of the things that we've done here, and there are a lot of resources, but we've produced some resources, some books and other things that you can just give to someone who served and let them read it and see if they're willing to take the next step. But making it available, remaining open, and trying. Again, this is excluding them doing self-harm. If someone's hurting themselves, call the police. If someone's hurting someone else, call the police and deal with it on the backside of that. You don't ignore bad behavior. But if it's just someone that needs help, they're not hurting themselves, they're not hurting anyone else, remain open, let them know you love them, and try as much as possible to not be judgmental toward them. They already feel like you're judging them. They're hurting and they need help. Yeah,
definitely. Patience and grace are great. Great things to have when when dealing with somebody. And I mean, even dealing with my kids, I have to remind my own self of how I need to approach certain things.
Sure.
And when dealing with some veterans, which can be the same as the way my kids are acting, as you know,
a lot of veterans act like kids.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I'm not excluded
don't
from
we
that.
all? Yeah,
but,
don't we all?
You know, I throw my tantrums just like anybody else. But remembering the mindset that person might be in, and that's where the patience and that grace comes into. But at the same time, not neglecting, you know, the violence or anything like that, and but just being patient with them, letting them know that you love and you care for them, and you want nothing but the best for them, and letting, you know, things kind of go as they need to be, as you would feel, and avoid the constant, you know, you should go to this program, you know, and avoid ultimatums. You know, I've seen that go good, but more times I've seen it go bad.
Most of the time it does not go well.
Yeah,
right.
and sometimes there comes that time where an ultimatum has to be played, but you know, that's the great thing with us and many other organizations out there. There's the info line where, you know, a simple email or call to us can we'd be happy to help somebody walk through that. We're always willing to kind of intercede on somebody's behalf and speak to somebody. And that's another thing is people, well, you need to talk to them because you have that background. Well, it doesn't always work that way.
If I don't know them, they're probably not going to listen.
I mean, I always go back and kind of say, well, you know, do you like, you know, telemarketers calling you? Because this is going to be 10 times worse, you know, like some random guy that was a Marine and now you're a Marine, or it doesn't always work that way. But it's tough, and you have to also maintain that mindset. Like it's going to be difficult, but there's a reason behind it, and just remember to be patient with it.
Just remain open, be patient, make the information available to them, and then step back and trust that God can do the work in their lives.
That's all you can do.
That's it. As we get started in the new year, just a reminder to those watching, and I love our audience, and to our supporters, you make what we do possible. And this show is intended to be, not to sound corny, but a service to you. We want to take much of what we've learned and what we're dealing with on a daily basis and make it available to you, knowing that you may be going through something or know people who are going through things. And so we talk about our program often, not all of the time, but often. But as we get started in the new year, just wanted to remind those of you who have heard this before, and let you know if you haven't, that our programs are free to those who attend. Thankfully, we have wonderful supporters, and if you'd like to be a donor, you can go to our website and check that out, and you can donate there. But we have wonderful supporters across the country who make our programs possible. This year, I believe we have 28 weeks of programs on our locations, 4 locations across the country, and we'll have hundreds of folks who will attend those programs, and we make those available at no charge. We'll also pay for travel to get you to those programs if that's what you need. So we want to do everything that we can to remove any barriers, any obstacles to getting the help that's needed. And so if you need help, go to our website, mightyoaksprograms.org. Go to our website. You can find an application there. Fill out the application. That will go to our team. We'll get right back to you. If you know someone who needs help, again, as we were just talking about, let them know. Maybe send them a link to the website, or get one of the resources that we have on our website, and let them know that we're here and we're available to them, and we'd love to help. And any questions that you might have, any concerns, any questions, you can hit us up at our email address, info@mightyoaksprograms.org, and we'd love to answer any of those questions as well. But again, thanks for being with us. Look forward to a good year, and we'll talk more in the coming days. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell, do that. That lets you know when new content comes online, and we will talk to you next time.